That alone, freedom from nature and the push-button world. Verse number 43. Even those of good action are caught by nature and whirled around in vicious circles. One should know that non-action does not bring release from perverted action, only the non-desire for the fruit of action. Commentary. The mainstream of the philosophic life of India is constituted of 6 systems of thought that are considered to be orthodox. These philosophies naturally fall into 3 pairs: Sankhya and Yoga, Nyaya and Vaiseshika, and Purva-mimamsa and Uttara-mimamsa. The Sankhya philosophy, whose principal exponent was Kapila, derives its name from the fact that its followers count and categorize. It is by no means a theistic religion. It is an out-and-out rational philosophy. There is no room for faith or dogma in Sankhya philosophy. All its convictions are derived from a mathematically precise understanding. To begin with, they think of a binary function, intelligence along with a field where that intelligence can operate, or a field which operates in the light of that intelligence. Corresponding to this, St. John's Gospel in the Bible refers to God and the Word. Word is considered to be the substance out of which all creations have come. It has the capacity to become flesh. So the substance has a homogeneous link with God. The will of God and the intelligence in the Word are not different. Sankhya philosophy has exactly the same idea, but does not present it in a legendary or myth-like manner as the Bible does. The language of scientists is used. Sankhyans speak of 2 primary realities: Purusha, pure consciousness, and Prakriti, the field of creation. Prakriti is comprised of the 3 modalities: tamas, rajas, and sattva, or inertia, kinetics, and the sublime state. Of these, tamas and sattva are polar opposites. Tamas is the inertial state where things are held together. It is obdurate and does not easily yield. Being opaque, it has maximum opposition to spirit. Sattva completely resembles spirit, though it is not spirit. A mirror by itself is only matter. It is not luminous, but it can reflect light very clearly. If you reflect sunlight into a dark room with a mirror, that light can illuminate the room. The original quality of the sunlight can be conveyed by a mirror, which by itself is inert and non-luminous. This is precisely the nature of sattva. It can clearly convey the quality of pure intelligence into the world of manifestation, but is not itself pure intelligence. So Sankhya philosophy has this dichotomy of matter and spirit, Prakriti and Purusha. Within Prakriti, the polarization between the pure, clear sattva and the dark, inertial tamas creates a lot of movement from one to the other. This kinetic aspect is called rajas. The science of physics mainly deals with the forces of inertia and kinetics. The states which come to prevail between the functions of inertia and kinetics can be understood in terms of intelligence. Yogis apply this philosophy in their personal life. They look for an ideal state where sattva, rajas, and tamas are brought to an equilibrium. This automatically brings an equilibrium between spirit and matter also. Then that duality is transcended and a unitive aspect comes. The whole system becomes quiescent. A beatitude springs forth from within. Inertia is not pronounced. Our normal idea of clarity, in the sense of a subject knowing an object, is absent. There is no longer any differentiation. In that differenceless state, in the absolute fusion of spirit and matter, one becomes the aloneness of the Supreme. Such aloneness is considered to be a very high state. It is a return from the world of activities to one's own original nature. This is the yogi's ideal. There are many schools of yoga, the most ancient of which is Patanjali's. His book, the Yoga Sutras, begins with the final goal. He states the final cause first, and then goes into the material causes and the efficient causes afterwards. Yoga union is equated with samadhi, absorption. He wrote Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the complete cessation of all modifications of the mind. With this he aims at the vision which may be called arriving at one's own real state and getting established in it. The epistemology or the philosophy of this vision is given by Sankhya, and the application of it, including the methodology of applying the Sankhya wisdom, is given by yoga. Thus these two schools are a complementary set. The second pair of complementary schools are Nyaya and Vaiseshika. Between them, all the logical aspects of the mind are dealt with. They provide a methodology for thinking. Such methodology is the testimony by which one arrives at right knowledge. For instance, perception is one testimony of knowledge. What I can directly perceive, I don't need proof of. This is called a pramana, that which brings certitude. The first pramana is direct perception. If I have an apple in my hand, I don't have to look into a book to know it. It is a direct experience, a pratyaksha. The second pramana is inference, where from partial knowledge one can infer the full reality. The third is analogy, and the fourth is knowing a thing through the principle of contradiction. There is also a principle of sufficient reason. The final one is Shabda, something stated by a wise person, a guru, or an authoritative book. This can tend to become dogmatic, but it is a priori. Some of their methodology is a priori, and some is a posteriori. The Nyayikas want to see how we relate a personal consciousness with the rest of the world. They consider that intelligence is that which deals with the objects of intelligence, and that our actions, non-actions, and life as a whole mainly depend on our knowledge. They study the logical relationship between things and ideas, and have come up with a set of categories. The first is dravya, things, which is usually translated into English as substance. The second category is guna, quality. A stone is dravya, its quality is heaviness. Water's quality is that it flows, fire burns. Man is also a dravya, he has a concreteness. The world can easily be seen as a composite of concrete things and their qualities. A number of things can be gathered together under one category because of their homogeneous nature. When things are related by gathering them together, it is called sambandha. For instance, all human beings can be brought under the heading of man. that is samanya. Also, each individual can be studied separately and analytically, that is vishesha, the purview of the Vaisheshikas. Of course, there are many other categories such as time, space, action, and absence. The two other schools are Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa, the anterior and posterior schools of critique. The anterior school assumes that absolutely dependable knowledge is a priori, that in order to have experience, there has to be within the person a certain revelation of an inner device by which things can be related. From the beginning of our knowledge of the world, things have seemed as though they were spread out in space. No one needed to teach us that there is space. In the same way, we see certain things as being above or below without being taught, and are also aware of the sequential passing of time as a part of experience. We are born with this knowledge. Therefore, these kinds of knowledge are not learned, but are part and parcel of an a priori revelation. Knowledge is being revealed to us. It is simply our nature, and we are realizing our nature. When knowledge comes to us, we tend to express it, and in order to express it, we tend to use words. We think in terms of words, which are basically conceptual. For their articulation, we take energy from the bodily mechanism. We use the energy in us, directed in a certain way, to become conceptualized. This conceptualized energy becomes verbalized and is then expressed. It becomes a communicative force. When people interact and communicate, they create many new possibilities. For this reason, the Purva Mimamsa school examines the process of semiosis in detail. The potential possibility of consciousness in a person lies there like an ocean out of which the waves of ideas emerge. Each emerging idea presents a vision to the person's own consciousness. So, out of amorphous, unstructured consciousness arises a structured consciousness, which is described as pashyanti, or vision. When the person wants to communicate his vision to someone else, he puts it in the form of words. For instance, when an engineer wants to explain her drawing of a structure to her clients, she verbally articulates what she has drawn on paper, and through her sounds they begin to share her vision as a living possibility rather than a static blueprint. According to the anterior critics of the Purva Mimamsa school, the whole universe is nothing but a manifestation of the word, which can be undone, redone, and transformed through the application of words. The most important tool a man has is his word. The word is also himself. He is the tool. He makes the tool, and he and the tool can work together because of their homogeneity as consciousness. The posterior school, known as Vedanta, accepts the two principles of nature and intelligence from the Sankhya philosophy. From the Nyaya Vaisheshika school, they accept methodologies such as perception, inference, analogy, contradiction, and word testimony. Narayana Guru belongs to this school, and he wants us to know how the knowledge which he has been describing operates in our daily life. Your intention is to find ultimate release from all kinds of bondages that tie you down to the world of necessity, action, and relativism in order to attain absolute freedom. Absolute freedom means having no conditions. Your body itself is a limiting condition. There are physical, biological, psychological, and chemical principles which limit you in various complex ways. For instance, your body is heavy and you cannot lift it into the air. It is tied to the earth by gravitational forces. From out of the domination of so many principles and laws, you desire an autonomous status, to become the master of the situation. In the present verse, Narayana Guru first mentions the person who has good intentions. The previous verse showed that our consciousness can be led in two directions. We see ourselves as part of the whole, or to focus on the particular. If you only look to the particular and feel strongly that you are the particular, you become a self-centered person, giving primacy to your body and its pleasures. You get involved in acquisition, grasping for the things of others, and gratifying your latent urges. There is a strong impulse for action which is monitored by your individual desires. When such attitudes prevail, anya or otherness is operating in your mind. The other possibility is to be dominated by a vision of the universal. You consider mankind as an organic whole. As long as your vision is that you epitomize the whole and action moves you, your desire will not be self-centered, but oriented to the well-being of the community, of nature in its largest sense. You become an ecologist, a lover of the universe, one with the spirit of life. When you move in the direction of the welfare of all, sama or sameness is operating in your mind. Between sameness and the other, you can be pulled in different directions. If you commit yourself to the universal good and your actions are all oriented in that direction, you become a sukriti. Su means good, kriti means actor. This is a fine ideal. However, although you may be universal in your outlook, when you begin to act in the world, many things interfere. You cannot do things just as you want, because prakriti, the separating tendency, is found throughout nature. So even a sukriti, the best of people, has to conform to social principles, government laws, and all the rest. Perhaps the country is going to war, and all are expected to contribute to the war effort. You can dissent and protest, but in some way you will be dragged into it. It will shape your life to a greater or lesser extent. Certainly sukrita is very good, and you are going in the right direction, but limitations come from all sides, and you also get caught by them. You may even find that your very goodness becomes an evil. In some situations, if you are too good, people will kill you just for that. So your goodness has to be moderated, to be tailored to the situation. The sukriti, the man with the best intentions, who identifies with the universal, will at times be compelled to do actions against his wishes. We can see that happening all around us. Even the most broad-minded and generous people are caught by the mesh of nature and go round and round, feeling helpless. What is the way out of this dilemma? The Guru says, phalagraham attaranidenam. Even when you are good and you are turning towards the sama, there is an impact of anya which gets in your way. You may want to see the effect of your work immediately or within a certain time limit. In this, although you seem to be a wise person, fully identified with the universal, you have limited your action situation to a context of anya. Your desire for good and immediate results has tainted the purity of your actions. The Guru recommends, along with the Bhagavad Gita, giving up the desire for the fruits of your actions. If you think you have made your contribution to the stream of events and that this will bring results not particularly to you but to humanity in its course of operation, then you are not held in any obligatory system. You have become both a witness and a contributor. Another possibility is intending to not do anything, saying, "I am in trouble because I act. Only a man who acts makes mistakes and gets caught, so I'll avoid that by not doing any action." This is called akriti, non-action. Will it help? If you do not act, will you become one with the Absolute? No. There are potentials in you which have their own dynamics to jump out and shape your behavior. They may make you act in very strange ways. Mere suppression or inaction is not an antidote. Vikriti, perverted action, comes out of you through reflex and instinctive urges. It spurts out and makes you act weird and crazy. This perverted action is sitting in all of us to some extent. We put on big cloaks of virtue and good action, so it all looks very acceptable. But when we get hysterical, we forget all that. Non-action is no guarantee against this. It can actually make it easier for such perverted action to surface. So you are not an akriti, a non-actor, and you are not a sukriti, in the sense that you want to have good effected immediately. You are certainly not a vikriti, because you do not allow perversion to take over. You are one who sees the good of all and intends the good of all. You contribute to the good of all to whatever extent you can, but you do not hold on to it with a desire to identify or to realize it here and now. Thus, your release is to be worked out by taking away the desire for the fruit, but retaining the desire for the actualization of good in a general way. You are still motivated, but your motivation is not bound to personal gratification. We will go more into the intricacies of this in the next verse. And the free translation of verse 43 is, "Even good people engaged in virtuous action are caught in nature's repetitive compulsions, and they helplessly go round and round, performing obligatory action. Mere omission of action does not cure the mind of its urge to modulate. Only unitive understanding, which is desireless, brings emancipation."